It's been 7 years. 7 long years since the Dragon Ball Super anime ended with episode 131 of the DBS anime, which concluded the Tournament of Power in the anime continuity. Jiren vs Ultra Instinct Goku was 7 years ago. Some of you may have started watching Dragon Ball Super in primary school. Well, you may have actually graduated high school now. It's actually wild. But this video is going to propose something that I'm sure is going to get a lot of people angry. However, with Dragon Ball Super, the manga on hiatus, and behind the scenes issues between Akio Ioku and Shueisha, it doesn't appear that Dragon Ball Super's anime returns on the horizon, at least anytime soon. So it could be pushing 10 years sometime soon. So I propose that if it does come back, which it should come back, and obviously we have the manga continuation which goes further than the Tournament of Power, I believe rather than carry on from where they left off, they should use modern media to reboot the whole damn series. Yeah, I said it. Give us a modern adaptation of Battle of Gods, Resurrection of F, Universe 6. Reboots are common in modern media. Look at Spider-Man, Batman, Superman. Given a 10-year layoff of Dragon Ball Super the anime, it wouldn't be that wild to reboot the thing. Now obviously, just like you, I don't really want to watch Battle of Gods or Resurrection of F, or perhaps even Universe 6 again, or have to watch it weekly and go through that process again. I do have an answer for that, and it's using modern media and the way the industry now operates. Now it is a radical and wild idea, and you could call it very idealistic, but I propose that rather than go through the first few arcs of Dragon Ball Super on a weekly basis, that they pre-make them and put them straight on a streaming service. Now, how much of Dragon Ball Super? I would argue it should at least be Battle of Gods, Resurrection of F, and the Universe 6 vs Universe 7 tournament arc that get pre-released. I would say these arcs are needed simply because the treatment of Super Saiyan God, the transformation, and Super Saiyan Blue is far better in the manga than it was in the anime. Super Saiyan God gets far more shine, and we see the phasing of Super Saiyan God into the use of Super Saiyan Blue, and it's far more effective. The plot devices are more effective in the manga than what they were portrayed in the anime. But I guess you could go as far as the Tournament of Power, but obviously that's going to take some time. Now you're probably asking, well, why? We've already got it. Why do we need it again? Just make Dragon Ball Super 2 go straight to the Moro arc. Well, I would argue that the story in the manga is a lot better than it is in the anime. It makes a lot more sense. It's a lot more grounded in all of its aspects of storytelling, to be brutally honest. If we wanted to go further, it does seem that Toriyama has worked closer to the manga with Toyotaro than he did for the anime, which we know he only gave bullet points, and then he basically adapted those bullet points into 20-minute episodes, basically what I would call Toei filler, even though it isn't, you know, quote-unquote filler. But that's not all. So it would have a better story, a more consistent story, power levels would make more sense, the character interactions make more sense, the verse lore makes more sense. Obviously, we also have seen in Dragon Ball Daima, even though it has a very mixed reception, especially in terms of its storytelling, that the animation team was absolutely incredible. We saw some absolutely iconic scenes in Dragon Ball Daima. For example, Goku going through the Super Saiyan transformations, arriving at Super Saiyan 4. Incredible. Give Dragon Ball Super that type of animation consistently, then I think a lot of opinions on Dragon Ball Super would actually change. In fact, I would argue that the opinions on Dragon Ball Super are changing and becoming more positive since Dragon Ball Diamond's release because of those mixed receptions. People are looking at Dragon Ball Super, especially the story of Dragon Ball Super, especially in the manga, much more favourably, and realising, well, for Dragon Ball, it's actually not too bad. Now, I'm not saying perfect. Dragon Ball Super, the manga, has issues in terms of storytelling as well, and I will actually cover those in these videos and where they could actually improve those. But then obviously you've got to look at the formatting of the two mediums, manga and anime. Manga is pretty limited really. You can only really draw certain things in a small panel and then motionless. So there's only a certain amount of things you convey with a picture. A picture tells 1,000 words, sure, but motion picture can tell 1,000,000 words in a few seconds of motion. Now we all know about the production problems that the original Dragon Ball Super had, especially in the early parts of it. I think it kind of got it a bit together in the Tournament of Power, but it was rushed into production, which is wild considering the first 2 arcs of it was basically just adaptations of 2 movies. Still, with a good production, like we saw for Dragon Ball Daima really, and the amount of content that Super has, they could really make each episode worth it. Even Daima didn't do that, but they could really make the story fit into the anime in each episode and really fill out the episodes so they have a lot of value. These arcs could be a lot shorter. Battle of Gods had no reason to be 16 episodes long like it was in the original anime, and Resurrection of F had no business being 8 episodes long. They were originally 2-hour movies at best. That's 6 episodes worth of content really when you break it down into animated episode lengths. So they could be brought right down. They don't even necessarily have to be that long. They could be a bit longer to add a bit more context. If Toyo wants to add some more context to them, all the better. But they don't need to be that long. But they could be redone with new animation teams and get rid of the disastrous Saiyan Beyond God concept. But the truth is, anime can do anything that the manga can. In fact, it can elevate what the manga's done through use of sound, visual effects, and voice actor performances. It can really enhance characters and how we feel about the characters in those moments. As long as it's done right, Dragon Ball Super can get enhanced, and I think that's really important when it gets to the Moro arc, as well as the Granolah arc, especially the Granolah arc. So I think the Granolah arc will make a really good animated arc. It's almost like a quasi-tournament to become the strongest in the universe, and is mainly a combat arc, just like the Tournament of Power. And I would actually agree that the Tournament of Power in the anime was better than that one in the manga, even though the manga one was rushed, whereas the manga with every other arc I think does it better than the anime. But ultimately, if we went the traditional route and just made Dragon Ball Super 2 to follow on from the original Dragon Ball Super anime and use Toyotaro's Moro arc as the continuation, there are just simply things that don't make sense. Ultra Instinct being the big one. The depictions of Ultra Instinct in the anime and the manga are different. Goku can get emotion amps in Ultra Instinct in the anime, whereas he needs True Ultra Instinct for that in the manga. Big contradiction. And there are others. I won't spend too much time going over them in the video. If you want to talk about them down in the comment section, by all means go for it. I want to lay out my plan for a reboot. Now that's another important reason why I think it's important to reboot, is the Moro arc is the best arc in Dragon Ball Super. Now I love the Future Trunks arc because I'm a very big fan of the antagonist in that arc, but holistically the best post Dragon Ball Z arc is the Moro arc. I personally think it's only missing one ingredient, and that's an ingredient that Dragon Ball Super, in fact modern Dragon Ball, has failed to replicate from Dragon Ball Z, and that's the emotional investment in characters when something severe or consequential happens. But there could also be a reason for that, and that is the fact that there's no tension in Dragon Ball Super, or modern Dragon Ball for that matter, simply because of the end of Z. It needs to move past that, and hopefully it will do that when the Dragon Ball Super manga returns with its 10th arc. But other than that, the Moro arc had nearly everything you could ask for from a Dragon Ball franchise. Now I know a lot of people watch a lot of modern anime and read a lot of modern manga or manhwa, the likes of Jujutsu Kaisen, Demon Slayer, One Piece, Solo Leveling, which is probably my current favourite now. Let me know if you watch Solo Leveling down in the comment section if you'd like me to make Solo Leveling content, because that's one hell of a series at the moment. And if you've read the manhwa, you'll know it actually gets better after season 2. These modern fictional pieces have much more layered storytelling than what Dragon Ball has, because Dragon Ball really is a product of its time. It's from the 80s, 90s, but Dragon Ball always seems to have something that they don't. Even the likes of Dragon Ball Super when it's at its worst. Now, other things like Naruto, even One Piece can have those moments sporadically, but Dragon Ball just seems to produce them quite frequently. Even when Dragon Ball's not good, it just has that juju, it has that magic. For those of you who follow the wrestling world or WWE, you get bookers. Toriyama is the ultimate booker. Every time a big fight's about to come about, you're hyped for it. And Dragon Ball does it consistently, even when the writing's not that good. By all means, call them hype moments, but it manages to draw you in time and time again, and they are even rewatchable. Now, the anime of Dragon Ball Super did have good moments. I'm highlighting hype moments, I guess you could say, but ultimately Goku using Blue Kaioken, even though I'd later go on to hate Blue Kaioken. Goku Black in his Rose form was pretty hype, and then the Tournament of Power is quite a hype thing. In fact, I feel like that arc was made for an anime, even though I think the pre-Tournament of Power in the manga is better with the God of Destruction Battle Royale. I think the Tournament of Power itself was better in the anime because they took their time over it. Doesn't have to be as many episodes as it was though, they could shorten that down as well. But it had these moments because the medium is just more prosperous than that of the manga medium. If they could get this right with a good story, a solid grounded story that we get much more from the manga, as well as the fact that obviously we know that Toriyama was a hermit, he didn't really contact Toei that much in order to help them, except for Daima of course. Toyotaro could actually step in and help a lot more and give them much more context to what's going on, to fill in any context that we would need to make the story deeper and much more interwoven. Now, why would they reboot it just to put out free content? Of course, that's a good argument, and I am being very idealistic here, but if they put them out on streaming services, not only would they make some of that money back through adverts, etc., but they could actually put it out to begin with as paid content. Now, I know some of you will go, well, I'm not paying for that. I would. With the animation from the recent Dragon Ball Daima and the production storyboarding that we got from Dragon Ball Daima applied to Dragon Ball Super, I'd definitely do it. I'd be a bit iffy about Battle of Gods and Resurrection of F simply because we've had them so many times, but the Universe 6 arc, the Future Trunks arc, I would definitely pay for, and even the Tournaments of Power. Getting rid of ridiculous filler that we had in the anime, and don't get me wrong, there was actually some good filler episodes in the anime of Dragon Ball Super, but getting rid of the Patafu arc, for example, would shorten Dragon Ball Super down. It doesn't need to be 131 episodes to cover those first 5 arcs of Dragon Ball Super. You could easily tell Battle of Gods in 6 to 10 episodes, same with Resurrection of F. The Universe 6 Universe 7 arc was only 13 episodes and could be trimmed down. The Future Trunks arc was only 20 odd episodes, could be trimmed down. The Tournament's Power could certainly be trimmed down, and it could lead into a Broly movie adaptation that they could then start releasing weekly. Now, I know people would want the Moro arc, but there is a Toriyama original 3-hour script for the Broly movie that I would like them to fully lay out in an anime sequence, and it has now been quite a while since the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie as well. So it's not like Battle of Gods and Resurrection of F where they got readapted within a couple of years. Now, this would require a lot of high-profile animators to work behind the scenes for a long time on a project that's basically already been done and won't necessarily drive that much hype to begin with. So how could Ioku drive the hype, or Shueisha, if they ever come together to make this work? Well, that's by promising when the Moro arc will come, because that's what everyone wants. People were very disappointed when they announced Diamond because most people wanted the Moro arc. Like I said, the Moro arc is Dragon Ball Super's best arc, and also by continuing the Dragon Ball Super manga, but not on a monthly schedule. I'd actually suggest changing it back to the original weekly schedule that Toriyama had in the original run of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, so that it draws hype every single week. I'll give Toyotaro more breaks, of course, because we know the nature of mangakas basically burning out. But he has just been on a long break, so you could say he should have a lot of this story developed already anyway. So obviously going through this would be short-term pain for some, but I think in the long term, by the time it gets to that Moro arc, if it's promised and we know it's coming, we can buy into it and it will be a massive payoff, at least in terms of the story. Of course, we'll also have beautifully animated arcs for those first 5 initial arcs of Dragon Ball Super as well. But even though it was a collaboration with Toyotaro, Dragon Ball Super is Toriyama's final works, and I believe it deserves the best treatment it can possibly get and put out to the world in its best possible portrayal, as well as the fact that Daima was clearly left open-ended, and I believe they are probably already in the works for a new movie. So that could release simultaneously whilst we'll wait for all of this to happen as well. Now guys, I know this is super idealistic, I know there's a lot of waiting, but it would lead to a very consistent Dragon Ball Super product that has better storytelling, better animation, better storyboarding, and people that watch it will have a much better outlook on Dragon Ball Super, because I wouldn't say it's all completely positive despite the recent upheaval after Dragon Ball Daima adaptation. There are some people talking about an original Dragon Ball reboot. I'm just not sure how that will go down with modern audiences if you've read the manga. But Dragon Ball Super, I think, could be rebooted. It's been long enough. It will be nearly 10 years by the time it comes back anyway, and with modern media outlets, they could do it in a way that won't piss off the entire fan base, all whilst giving Toyotaro even more time to keep developing more manga content and getting further ahead, making it extremely hard for the anime to catch up. Anyway guys, if you still disagree with me now, by all means let me know your thoughts on this down in the comments section. I've been waiting a while to put out this video because I would like to see a reboot, but at the same time, if they went in the direction of just making Daima its own continuity, I'd be okay with that too. But let me know your thoughts. I look forward to reading them. Until next time, Ad Astra.